Hello and welcome everyone to the session on getting on-premises access to cloud storage using AWS Storage Gateway. My name is Bhavin Patel and I'm a product manager with the AWS Storage Gateway service. I work closely with the AWS sales teams and customers to help them build the right set of features and services that solve customers' on-premises storage challenges. I'm excited to be here and to tell you more on Storage Gateway through this presentation. Here is the agenda for this session. I will start with the on-premises storage challenges faced by our customers. Then I'll give you an overview of what is Storage Gateway, different types of gateways, what are their capabilities, benefits, and use cases. I will also explain how some of our customers use these gateway types to address their storage challenges. Then I'll wrap up the presentation. My aim at the end of this presentation is to help you walk away with an understanding of whys and the hows of using Storage Gateway. If you're a storage or backup administrator, this list of challenges will look familiar to you. Are you being asked to provide more on-premises storage by your business stakeholders? Are you being asked to support data-hungry applications dreamed up by developers, but at the same time don't have capacity on-premises to support these applications and are not getting equivalent spending budget? Do you have applications that generate data in the cloud and are looking for ways to cost-effectively make that data available to users in your offices? If these challenges resonate with you, you have come to the right session. In this session, I'll show how you can use Storage Gateway to overcome these challenges and focus on value-added business activities instead of the undifferentiated heavy lifting of provisioning, scaling, and maintaining traditional on-premises storage. So what is AWS Storage Gateway? Storage Gateway is a hybrid cloud storage service from AWS that provides on-premises access to virtually unlimited cloud storage. It helps you reduce your on-premises storage footprint by seamlessly integrating on-premises applications with AWS storage. The service has two parts: the gateway, which typically runs on a virtual machine or hardware appliance in your data center, and then the service in the cloud to which the gateway connects to. If you look at the left-hand side of the slide here, you will see a gateway which sits in your environment and presents storage protocol interfaces such as file, block, or virtual tape, so applications can connect to it without you having to rewrite or refactor the application. The gateway in turn connects these on-premises applications and workloads to AWS storage services so you can store your data securely and durably in S3, S3 Glacier, or as EBS snapshots. Storage Gateway brings the security, the manageability, the durability, and scalability of AWS to existing on-premises environments through native integration with not only AWS storage services, but also services such as CloudWatch for monitoring, CloudTrail for logging and auditing, IAM for identity management, and KMS for encryption. Customers use Storage Gateway for three key use cases, and I'll be going over those later in the presentation. Within the Storage Gateway family, there are three different types of gateways. File Gateway enables you to store and retrieve objects in S3 using file protocols, such as NFS or SMB. Files written through the File Gateway can be directly accessed in AWS as S3 objects or on-premises as files. Tape Gateway provides your backup application with an iSCSI virtual tape library interface, allowing you to store your backups and archives in S3. And then the Volume Gateway provides cloud-backed block storage to your applications using iSCSI protocol. Data on the volumes is stored in S3 and can be backed up as Amazon EBS snapshots in the cloud. Here are the key benefits of using Storage Gateway. Storage Gateway supports multiple storage protocols, enabling you to seamlessly connect on-premises applications to AWS storage without having to modify those applications. Storage Gateway also supports a fully managed local cache, which provides low latency access to frequently used data. So your most often used data by applications can be served up from the Storage Gateway cache that's adjacent to your application servers with minimal latency. Storage Gateway also supports data transfers, which are optimized in flight. Storage Gateway compresses the data before synchronizing data to cloud, and it also fetches only the data that's needed when data requested is not in the cache. This helps speed up your data transfer and optimize response time to application I/O. Storage Gateway supports security of data in flight and at rest in cloud. With Storage Gateway, you only pay for what you use and can elastically scale storage as your on-premises workloads grow. And finally, the gateways deployed on-premises are managed, monitored, and updated from the cloud, simplifying management. In the last couple of years, we are finding that customers want to use Storage Gateway for more demanding use cases on-premises, and hence we have been adding features across several areas to enable those use cases. We expanded deployment options earlier in the year, so along with VMware and Hyper-V, we also support running Storage Gateway on Linux KVM hypervisor. We also made Storage Gateway available on a pre-configured hardware appliance, such that it works out of the box and you don't need to provision any VM resources on premises. We also added high availability for storage gateways running on VMware. Over the last year, we also made Storage Gateway available in all 24 AWS regions. For security and compliance, we added audit logging for SMB shares and added worm support on Tape Gateway. For our government customers who want to run sensitive workloads, we also provided FIP service endpoints on top of our already supported public and VPC endpoints. And lastly, we have been increasing scale and performance of the gateway. We increased the cache size for all gateways from 16 terabytes to 64 terabytes to enable customers to process larger datasets on premises. And we also made several performance enhancements that help increase read throughput from cache, read throughput from cloud, write throughput to cache, and then write throughput to the cloud. Before I dive into the gateway use cases and how customers are using these gateways, let me give you a quick overview on each of the three gateway types. The first gateway type here is the file gateway. The file gateway presents a file interface that enables you to store files as objects in S3 using NFS and SMB protocols. There's a 1:1 relationship between a file and an object, and file metadata is stored in S3 object metadata, helping you easily read this data back on premises without worrying about losing file metadata. Once the files are stored in S3, they can be managed as native S3 objects, and bucket policies such as versioning, lifecycle management, and cross-region replication can be applied to objects stored in your bucket. Most importantly, once your data is in the cloud, it can be queried, accessed, and used across the entire portfolio of AWS applications and services. Let me give you an overview of Tape Gateway. Tape Gateway provides a standards-based iSCSI VTL interface consisting of a virtual media changer, virtual tape drives, and virtual tapes to your backup application. You can continue to use your existing backup applications and existing workflows while writing to a collection of virtual tapes that are presented from the gateway and are backed by the massively scalable S3. When you no longer require immediate or frequent access to data contained in a virtual tape, You can have your backup application eject or export that tape from the virtual tape library, which causes the gateway to then store that tape in S3 Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive, helping you further reduce your storage costs. Tape Gateway is also compatible with most leading backup applications. Volume Gateway presents cloud-backed iSCSI block storage volumes on your premises applications. Volume Gateway stores and manages on-premises data in S3 on your behalf and operates in either cached mode or stored mode. In the cached mode, only frequently accessed data is stored locally in the cache, and in the stored mode, all data is stored locally. In both the modes, your data is asynchronously backed up to S3. And in either of those two modes, you can take point-in-time copies of your volumes using AWS Backup, which are then stored in AWS as EBS snapshots. Using EBS snapshots enables you to make space-efficient version copies of your volumes for data protection, recovery, migration, and various other copy data needs. There are several common workloads customers focus on when moving storage to the cloud to simplify storage management. The first one is using cloud storage for backups of on-premises applications to reduce infrastructure and administration costs. You can back up your on-premises workloads to the cloud. You can move your tape-based archives to the cloud. You can store data that you need to retain for a long term in the cloud. The second use case here is using cloud for cloud-backed file shares. Customers have on-premises applications that need easy-to-use, cost-effective, scalable file storage, yet often run out of capacity on their on-premises storage arrays and face expensive hardware replacement cycles every few years. Customers have also realized that many of their on-premises file workloads do not need expensive storage arrays and can instead use Cloud Storage Gateway. The last use case here is providing low-latency access to data stored in AWS for on-premises applications. Customers have gathered large amounts of unstructured data that they want to store cost-effectively and centrally, so applications in distributed locations can access it for content management, analytics, or processing. But they are finding it hard to do so with the traditional storage arrays. So these are the three use cases for which you can consider using cloud to replace or augment your existing storage systems. Next, let me dig into the first use case for backing up and archiving data to AWS. All the three gateway types that I described earlier are suitable for backup needs. The file gateway provides NFS or SMB shares that you can use as backup storage target to back up your on-premises Oracle or SQL Server databases to AWS. The tape gateway allows you to archive your data as virtual tapes in AWS. And the volume gateway presents block storage LUNs. So if your backup applications need to write to a block storage interface, you can do that using volume gateway. Many of our customers use file gateway file shares as a storage target to back up on-premises instruments and databases and reduce their on-premises storage footprint. You can mount file shares directly on database and app servers using native database backup utilities or using database dumps to store those files in AWS. Since File Gateway maps each file as an object in S3, you can easily do file-level restores by finding the equivalent object from S3, or you can easily reuse the backups in cloud as well with other services. File Gateway provides local cache and uses S3's highly elastic storage in the backend. This means that you can store backups locally for faster access while not being limited by how much data you can back up because ultimately all your backups will be stored in the cloud. If you're using SMB shares for backups, File Gateway also provides SMB access control lists that you can use to control access to your backup files. And once your data is in S3, you can use lifecycling to tier data to low-cost storage classes such as S3 Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive. File Gateway transfers only the new changes, so it does this byte range gets and puts, helping optimize bandwidth use. With respect to a customer case study, we have a customer, Kellogg's, who uses File Gateway for backups. Kellogg's was in the process of migrating many applications to AWS and closing their data centers. However, they had certain SAP applications which ran on Oracle databases and needed to do backups of those applications. In addition, they also had SQL databases and Hadoop clusters running on-premises that they wanted to back up. However, backing up these workloads using traditional backup solutions, which required storage purchase, was complex and expensive. Kellogg's deployed File Gateway on-premises to back up their data center workloads to S3. Using a local cache of just a couple of terabytes, they're able to back up hundreds of terabytes to the cloud and achieve about 90% reduction in backup solution costs. Similar to File Gateway, you can also use Tape Gateway for backups and archives. Tape Gateway provides a drop-in replacement for your physical tape infrastructure. It emulates a physical tape library and integrates with your backup applications, allowing you to back up and archive data to virtual tapes without changing your workflows. Tape Gateway provides a managed storage service so that you don't need to manage your own S3 buckets, set lifecycle policies, or set IAM rules to govern access to the data. All of that is done for you by the Storage Gateway service, and you simply manage the tapes and the gateway. Tape Gateway compresses data in transit and at rest in cloud, allowing you to optimize network bandwidth use as well as lower storage costs. By virtue of storing long-term data in S3 Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive, Tape Gateway provides a virtual air-gapped solution such that you can only restore this data using a two-step process. Tape Gateway also supports warm virtual tapes, helping protect your data from accidental or malicious deletion. And Tape Gateway's tape retention lock feature ensures that your data can be locked and not be deleted by anyone, or only users with the right privileges can delete those tapes. Such features help our customers meet their regulatory compliance needs. We have a customer, Ryanair, a budget airline out of Europe that uses Tape Gateway. Before the customer started using Tape Gateway, they were using physical tapes to archive their mission-critical data and store that data off-site. However, using physical tapes was getting challenging. It took time to order the new physical tapes, and when they tried to restore data from those tapes, they would receive CRC errors. They were looking to get off of tapes and looked at traditional options such as buying new generation of tapes or buying backup appliances. But both of those options required upfront purchase and didn't suit their needs. So Ryanair evaluated Tape Gateway and switched over to using Tape Gateway after a month of running Tape Gateway in parallel to physical tapes. They verified the Tape Gateway functionality and achieved the right comfort level before they switched over. Using Tape Gateway, they no longer have to order or wait for physical tapes to arrive. Their virtual tapes are created automatically for them as part of Tape Gateway's automatic tape creation capability. They're able to reduce their backup costs by 65% overall through use of Glacier Deep Archive for long-term storage as well as by eliminating the need to purchase tapes and paying for tape warehousing costs. Similar to file and tape gateways, you can also use Volume Gateway for backups. Volume Gateway presents cloud-backed storage over iSCSI. You can mount the LUNs from Volume Gateway to your backup applications and write data to it. Later, you can take snapshots of those volumes using AWS Backup and store them in AWS as EBS snapshots. You can then restore those EBS snapshots to EC2 volumes or Storage Gateway volumes. Volume Gateway caches your data locally and compresses data in transit to AWS, helping you save on bandwidth and storage costs. We have a customer, TransferWise, who uses Volume Gateway for backups and in their journey to cloud. TransferWise is an online money transfer service that was experiencing rapid growth, and their existing data center was becoming constrained in terms of supporting new workloads and geographic expansion. They embarked on a journey to migrate their databases to the cloud. First, they started by backing up data to the cloud using Volume Gateway. They were able to store those database backups as EBS snapshots and eventually convert them to EBS volumes that they could use on EC2 or restore those backups on RDS. Volume Gateway helped TransferWise store their on-premises database backups in the cloud and also helped them gradually move over to using AWS native services for workloads. Using Volume Gateway, TransferWise was able to scale the business growth and also reduce the time and the overhead of managing data centers. So the last few slides I discussed using Storage Gateway for backups and archives. Now let me move on to the second use case, which customers use Storage Gateway for also, which is providing on-premises file shares backed by cloud storage. File Gateway presents virtually unlimited storage through file shares using SMB-NFS and NFS protocols. If you have needs to present file storage for Windows-based applications on premises that cannot move to the cloud yet due to latency requirements, you can deploy File Gateway in your data center. You can control access to File Gateway SMB file shares using Active Directory domains, or you can use authenticated guest access. File Gateway caches your most recently used data locally, providing on-premises applications with low latency access. You can use File Gateway to automatically generate file-level upload notifications to Amazon CloudWatch and send them to an event target such as AWS Lambda and automatically trigger downstream workflows required by your business processes. In addition, File Gateway provides audit logging of end-user operations on files and folders for SMB file shares. This logging allows you to comply with internal security policies, meet external compliance requirements, and analyze usage trends of your data. We have a customer, Gritstone Oncology, who uses File Gateway to provide file shares for their applications. Gritstone is developing tumor-specific cancer immunotherapies to fight multiple cancer types. As you can imagine, they collect vast amount of data in company labs and needed a highly scalable solution to meet their growing data needs. It was difficult to plan for and incur upfront capital costs for purchasing large storage systems. They started using File Gateway for their on-prem storage needs. They were able to transfer data in real time from their lab systems to S3 and ultimately store that data in S3. They were able to then trigger downstream processing of that data in the cloud to develop personalized immunotherapies for cancer patients. Using File Gateway in conjunction with S3 has not only helped them eliminate the need to purchase additional storage on premises, but also improve patient outcomes. So far, I went through two use cases for Storage Gateway, backups, and on-premises file shares. Now, I'm going to talk about the third use case, which is providing customers low latency access to data stored in the cloud. Many customers have applications that generate data in the cloud or had their on-premises data moved to S3 using AWS transfer services such as AWS Data Sync or AWS Snowball Edge. Now, let's say you wanted to provide on-premises users access to that data in the cloud using traditional storage protocols such as NFS and SMB. You may want to do this for data analysts and data scientists in one office, for data generated at another facility of yours. You may want to provide entire data set or just the results of the data processed in the cloud. Regardless of what the use case is, File Gateway makes it possible for you to provide low latency access to data residing in the cloud to users in any location. Think of this as a hub and spoke model, where the cloud is the hub for all of your data and the spokes are the gateways deployed in each of your remote offices to facilitate rapid access to the data in the cloud. File Gateway also has an automated cache refresh capability, which automatically refreshes the metadata cache to stay up to date with the changes in your S3 buckets without you having to manually invoke a cache refresh API or manage a process to do so. Now, on to a customer who uses File Gateway for this use case. We have a customer, Bristol Squibb, who is in the business of developing and discovering innovative medicines to cure diseases. Their IT team had a mandate to reduce overall IT costs and shift to cloud. The cloud as such is the most convenient place for the company to integrate and analyze the huge, often petabyte scale data sets. However, the scientific instruments used to collect genomics and clinical data cannot be moved to the cloud. They needed a way to transfer data generated in the labs to the cloud that worked with their existing instruments and at the same time help them store all data in S3 for further processing by their data management application. Bristol Myers Squibb deployed multiple file gateways across their locations to transfer hundreds of terabytes daily to AWS and reduced dependency on on-premises hardware. Using File Gateway has helped Bristol Myers Squibb use cloud without changing their instruments or applications and increase innovation velocity by providing stakeholders on-demand access to growing datasets. I'm in the final stretches of this presentation, so let me wrap up with some key points. The first is that Storage Gateway allows you to start using virtually unlimited cloud storage at your premises quickly and easily. There are no changes required to your existing applications or workflows if you want to use Storage Gateway. The second is, besides using Storage Gateway to provide low latency access to frequently accessed data, you can also go the other way. That is, you can provide local access to data stored in the cloud or migrated to the cloud on premises. And lastly, using Storage Gateway and cloud storage will help you significantly reduce your on-premises storage costs, help you overcome the capacity challenges, and get value from your data stored in the cloud. So how can you get started? So here's a list of resources that are available at your disposal. The first one is you can do some research and learning based on your needs. We offer several free training classes, which include Storage Gateway as well. We also offer numerous resources on our website, which includes pricing and documentation and blogs. Second step is for you to take your learning and put that into action. You can create an AWS account and start experimenting using Storage Gateway for your needs by running a proof of concept. And finally, you can get help along the way from AWS Storage Gateway Community Forum, AWS Support, your account teams, or AWS Professional Services. I would like to thank you for tuning into this session. I hope you found this session informative and actionable to help you get started with using Storage Gateway. I look forward to hearing your feedback and what else you need on Storage Gateway through your AWS account team and community forums. Thanks again, and have a great day.